Ok, pero hay dos opciones. Hay una opción, record on, save on your local computer, que la mejor opción.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good day, regardless of the time zone you're on. Thanks all for connecting, and it's really important for us that we have this session on the financial management arrangements to ensure that everything is clear from the beginning and to get to know you and listen to your questions now or later at a later stage during implementation. I'm aware that some of you prefer French as a language, but unfortunately we could not accommodate it in this session. So in case you have any questions you really want to ask in French, please feel free to send it by email and we'll reply as soon as possible. So let me start because we have 1 hour and we already lost 7 minutes. Let me start with my presentation that I'm going to go through a brief on the main financial management arrangements. And then we will have a Q&A session. So we will open the floor for questions and we hopefully will be answering you. So let me start with the presentation. If you allow me, if you can save all the questions toward the end, that would be better for time management. And then, so be patient with me while I go through the presentation in case if you have any questions. So let me share my screen and we start with a couple of slides to go through the main requirements. So just let me know, Julia, if you can see my presentation in the presentation mode.
Yes, now it's in presentation mode. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So as Julia said, I mean, most of you here, because you are part of the financing facility for remittances program, which is mainly financed by the EU, at least for the recipients who are with us today and implemented by IFAD. Hence, it's really important to understand IFAD requirements and to understand EU requirements together to be able to manage the finances of the grants and to meet the requirements that we expect as IFAD and then eventually EU expects. You introduced me, so just quickly to introduce myself in case anyone there was not here. So my name is Ela Abdelkarim again, and I work Regional Financial Management Officer at the Financial Management Services Division. Okay, so quickly, I mean, just to let you know that I'm going to start with a very brief introduction and just to give you the idea that EU has this framework agreement with the UN agencies for which IFAD then has the contribution agreements with EU. So all the agreements IFAD has with EU are governed under this framework agreement. And from them, we have the contribution agreements for the programs with the EU. And then we have the agreements that we sign with you eventually. So what concerns you really here is the EU, is the grant agreements that we sign with you, and what really concerns you here, the general provisions that are included in the grant agreements, because these general provisions are the reference, the guidance on what is applied and what is not applied. They are the legally binding terms in the agreement between us and you. And these general provisions you can find in Schedule 3. If everyone can be muted, yeah, thank you very much. That would be great. So you can refer to all these general provisions in Schedule 3 of the grant agreement. And another reference is the Schedule 4 of the grant agreement, which is about the eligibility of expenditures. And I will be going into more structured details about these two schedules. So this is just to introduce the main agreements that we refer to between you and us. Okay, so the main documents that you will always need to refer to during the implementation of the grant, as you know, the grant agreement, which with most of you we have already signed, and for some of you we will be signing, and of course the other documents that you are familiar with, which are the grant design document and the detailed budget that was approved by IFAD, and then subsequently the relevant annual budget if applicable to your project. But then another, I mean, I've included here another set of documents that are really important and considered as main document of the project that we need to be really cautious of and to make sure that we are preparing them as per our financial progress are the SOEs, the statement of expenditures that you will be submitting soon, and the transaction listings and the progress reports. All these are considered main documents of the grants. And of course, you can see in the grant agreement that we have put reference to the link where you can find all the grants forms, and this is to different things where you can, for example, find the form to submit the withdrawal application, the form to send us your banking instructions, the form, etc., etc. A lot of forms that you can refer to in this link. Okay, it's really important for us that you know how to read the documents, the main documents of the grant. And here, as I said, the main document we're having is the grant agreement. So I'm not going to go one by one, but just to flag in this slide that, and I'm really focused in this session on the financial management aspect. So just to highlight that within the general provisions, there are a couple of provisions that are finance related that you really need to be aware of, and that you need to know what are the deadlines in relation to these provisions. Now, the important ones, like the financial reporting audit, I will be covering in subsequent slides. It's really important for me that when you have a chance to go to the grant agreement, to look at these provisions and to look at what is applied to your grant. Of course, these come in Schedule 3, as mentioned earlier. But for some of you, or in general, for any recipient with IFAD, there could be some special provisions which are presented in the first 2 pages of the grant agreement. So it's really important that you see when there is a deviation, and this is very simple because you can see that deviation in the first 2 pages. So again, I'm not going to go through it one by one because I will be focusing on the most important provisions in later slides, but it's really important for you as finance staff to go to the agreement and to read the terms included within these provisions. One of the main points when we talk about EU grants is the eligibility of expenditures, and not only EU, by the way, even an IFAD normally grant, to be really knowledgeable about what is considered eligible and what is not considered eligible. And I do understand that since most of you, for example, are from the private sector, a lot of things could be different. A lot of how is the business done, or the financing is being used, what is considered eligible, what is not considered eligible could be something different. It's a matter of definition, of understanding really what is acceptable by IFAD and EU. So to focus on the most important thing, for an expenditure to be eligible, it should be within the implementation period. So once the completion date pass, work should stop. You cannot, even if the consultant, for example, still have 10 days to complete the work, this is not acceptable. Once the completion date pass, everything stops at that date, because any work carried out, services, etc., after that date, they are considered ineligible. So this is one point, to have all the expenditures within the implementation period. Another one, which is very important, is that all the expenditures should be as per the approved budget. So during the implementation, if there's a new line, a new activity, new cost that you see that it's very important, you cannot just spend on it without coming back to IFAD. In case if it's something really important for the implementation, you need to coordinate with IFAD, come back to us on the requested revision, where and how, and get an approval. So mainly all the expenditures should be as per the approved budget. And then, of course, the expenditures should be linked to the project activities. The cost should be reasonable. Any excessive cost will be out of the question. So everything should be reasonable, justifiable. All supported documents should be kept. And I think what we can do, Julia, is I have a list of sort of an indicative supporting documents where for each type of expenditures, we can share this with the projects for their ease of reference, because in case we had any audit by EU, etc., it's good for each recipient to know that these are the documents I need to keep for the expenditures that we incur. Of course, in case of taxes, it should be applied as per the legislation you're having. So for more details about this, you can always refer to Schedule 4, which is special to the EU IFAD, to the EU grants fund implemented by through IFAD. This as well, I'm not going to go through this list in details. You can find it in Schedule 4, but it's very important that you are attentive to it, that you understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. So you know, for example, that you cannot charge to IFAD any return on capital, or you cannot buy a vehicle and charge it, or land. It's clear things, and I think most of your budgets did not include them because we have already cleared them. But still, as finance staff, you need to be aware of what could be included, charged to the project, and what could not be charged. So I'm not going to go through the list. It's very, clear type of expenditures, but you can refer to this, as I said, to in the Schedule 4 of the grant agreement. So it's really important for you to be aware of this list, because almost like, the list is EU requirement, more or less. So in case you had a future EU check, if they would find any of these, they would just declare ineligible. Okay, so now we come to one of the most important parts in our session, which is financial reporting. And I think most of us here today, just to understand clearly what are the financial reporting requirements, what are the deadlines, what is expected from you, right? So these are very important for us. And because we have a lot of grants within whatever program, it's really important that the recipient understand the deadline and the requirement to save a lot of time of, following up later. So what is required? What is required is the statement of expenditure, which has a template that was shared with you. If not, we will be sharing with you. We will prepare this package maybe after the session and share with you, but I think Julia shared it already with some of you. So we have a statement of expenditure which has a template. If we had 5 minutes today, we can go through the template quickly. It's very basic. It includes the categories as per the grant agreement. It includes the budget for the year, for the period, cumulative, and how much was spent. Very basic requirements. Of course, when you submit it to IFAD, it has to be certified, meaning it has to be signed by the authorized person as communicated to IFAD. If you, in your first reporting period, you're not sure about the SOE, you think you did not fill it well, you need us to check it, please feel free to send a draft where we can have a look and see if everything is okay. And then you can carry on each period with your certified SOE. So this is the first requirement. With the SOE, there should be the expenditure transaction list, and this is very important for EU grants. So while you have put the total expenditures for the period in the SOE, you need to accompany it with a transaction listing showing these expenditures line by line. So meaning we do not accept group expenditures in the TL. As you have recorded in your accounting software, you will be presenting, and you can pull it from the accounting software and fill it in our template, because you need to have each expenditure line in a separate row. One important thing is to make sure that your transaction listing is reconciling with the SOE, meaning that in the SOE, you will presenting the expenditures per category. And then in the transaction listing, you will have each expenditure line allocated to a category. So make sure you do quick pivot table in the transaction listing, and that the total per each category is equal to what was reported in the SOE, because we had a lot of cases where we will receive both documents, but once you group the categories breakdown under transaction listing, it won't be matching the SOE. This is one element to be careful of. As I said, we do not accept the group expenditures in the transaction listing. And the third important point that we really expect to see clear description in the transaction listing in the description column. Clear description meaning that the nature of the expenditure and how it's relevant to the project activities should be clearly indicated in the transaction listing. So for example, if you're charging a salary of one of the staff, because this is what was in the budget, you need to mention the staff name, the staff position, what is the percentage of the charging, and what is this staff, you can put what is the contribution of this staff in relation to this project. If you had an event, a workshop, you need to mention, for example, venue for the workshop, of name of the workshop, dates, etc. Please be cautious of the point of having clear clear description in the transaction listing, especially if we will end up with a lot of transactions, because in some cases we end up for big projects with large amount of transactions, and it's very difficult to go back and to correct the descriptions at later stage. Exchange rate is very important in the transaction list. For each expenditure in the local currency, whatever local currency it is, it should be clearly included. The exchange rate should be clearly indicated in a separate column, and then of course the amount in euro. And I think Julia as well shared with some of you a transaction listing template that already include these columns. The list of legal commitments is important sometimes for the EU reporting. So it's not a semi-annual requirement, but sometimes when we have a reporting to the EU, which is annually due, from IFAD to EU, we ask for a list of legal commitments just to show that, okay, so these are the actual expenditures per project, but they have already signed these contracts, so we are expecting these. This could be upon request. But just to let you know what is the importance of the list of legal commitments. So the deadline of these reports is it's semi-annual. So each 6 months, then within 45 days from the end of the 6 months, you should be submitting the SOE and the transaction listing, meaning that if the period ends 31st of December, then the reporting is due on the 14th of February. If the period is ending 30th of June, then the reporting is due on the 15th or 14th of August, to be accurate. It's easier for us. I know that a lot of you have signed the agreement at some point, like in the year that it's not really matching a calendar reporting. Like some of you signed in October, some of you signed in August, some of you in December. But still, we want to keep the reporting period a calendar year, because it's going to be very easy for us to follow up. We have a lot of grants, so it's not possible just to adjust the six-month reporting period to each grant first disbursement, for example. So this is in terms of financial reporting. And it's really important that you understand this. So now when we have the Q&A session, if you have any question, whatever is the question, please feel free to ask it. The second important topic that really we need to make sure that we are on the same page on is the audit. And what are the audit requirements? So always remember that when you are submitting to IFAD an audit, you include 3 things. First, a separate audit opinion on the SOE. So the certified SOE that we were talking about, we need the auditors to take it and look at it and give us an opinion that this SOE for project number, name, provide fair and clear. I mean, there are no material, etc. How is the audit opinion to be framed by the auditors? But it should be an audit opinion specifically in the SOE. So this is number 1. Number 2 is a management letter or a report of factual findings. And this is included within the scope of the agreed upon procedures. Again, we have already shared with some of you the audit TOR. And for those who have it and have worked on it to customize it, they can clearly see what are the expectations from the auditors on a lot of aspects. This as well, I think we can include in the package today, Julia, and I'll share it with you in full. But yeah, I mean, the importance of the report of factual finding is that it will help us see if there are any internal control issues related to the project in specific. So we do not only look at the institution, and we look at the institution internal control. In this report, we are asking the auditors to look at specific matters in relation to the project and the project expenditures, etc. So it's a very important report. Sometimes, for some cases, the auditors could come up with this report with 0 findings, but we still need the report. We still need to have this report that indicates that we have audited the expenditures of this grant, and as per the agreed upon procedures, as per the TOR, etc. And we did not find any internal control issues, or we don't have any comments on their internal control, etc., or on the sample checked, etc. But we still need a report to see that what is the result of the auditor's work. This is the second. So as you can see, the first and the second are project specific, but then the third is what you normally do on an annual basis, which is the annual institutional audit. So it's not an additional requirement. It is what you do normally. But we still need to have it within the audit package. It's important to make sure that the auditors now are reflecting our grant in your. We want to see the grant included in your annual financial statements, that it's one of the source of the funded, etc. Not in details, not as a focus on our grant, but just to see that it is within the institution sources of fund and operations. So as I said, whenever you have an audit, just remember that these 3 documents you would be submitting to IFAD. It could be, of course, the first and the second that are combined in one. Sometimes they are combined in one. You have the SOE certified, you have the audit opinion, and then you have the report of actual finding. It's common. But as long as the requirements are included in the submitted documents, it's fine. So the deadline, so whenever we have the year end, and we do not mind basing the deadline on the financial year of the recipient, meaning if your financial year is not a calendar year, we go with your financial year. So we don't mind receiving the audit, for example, if your financial year ends in March, to receive it in September. So it's always 6 months from the year end. But please, you need to coordinate with us, because our system is set up in a way that we have each grant and we have the deadline of submission of the audit, and then it will be showing as overdue, etc. So we need to coordinate together our financial year ending August, ending March, whatever, and we need to, and our submission will not be based on a calendar year. For the final audit, though, there's a different treatment. For the final audit, we expect that you send us final audit, meaning that you are at the last year of the project. It couldn't be a full year. Sometimes it could be only 9 months or 8 months. But now you are at the final year of implementation. And what you need to submit by the closing date, by the project closing date or the grant closing date, is an audit opinion on the SOE and the report of actual finding. Of course, we understand that a final audit, it's very rare that a final audit will match the readiness of the institutional audit. Very rare. Some cases it could, but it's very rare. So we, in this case, for the final audit, if it's not matching the time when the institutional audit report is ready, we don't ask for it. We ask only for the audit opinion on the SOE and the report of actual finding. So project specific, only audit project specific. This is only with the final audit. In case you cannot submit at any time the audit reports on time because of whatever reason, please make sure that you communicate with us. We will try our best to get you an extension if the justification is reasonable. So just remember that in case of anything is not going as planned, etc., you can always communicate the issue with us, and we will try to find a solution. So this is the audit package. Yeah, I think for the recipients who did not receive the audit TOR yet, it couldn't be maybe not super clear, but it's very simple, very basic what is required in it. We require the auditors to look at the accounting system, to the expenditures, have a sample checked. It's all within the agreed upon procedures, but it's very basic and straightforward, and we will be sharing the TOR with you after the session. So this is audit, and of course, this is the relevant provision in the Schedule 3 in case you would like to look further at it. Okay, so with that done mainly with the financial reporting and audit, and then I just wanted through this slide to clarify some of the important elements in relation to budget changes. So it's really important that you understand how flexible the budget is, and where you need to communicate to IFAD and where it's fine with us. So if there are any changes within the budget headings that is 10% or less, it's fine that you go and take from this line to that line and just cover it. So for example, if you have, let's assume consultancies category, and then you have goods and services category, if you end up with 110% spending on the goods and services and 90% under the consultancies, it's fine. So you have up to 10% flexibility within the budget headings, of course, as per the approved budget. So we're not coming with a new lines or new activities. So this is the flexibility you have. In case the change will be more than 10%, you need to communicate this to IFAD. Of course, you can start by an email to let, for example, Julian and the team understand and see the logic of the change request, if they accept or not, and then we go through the process formally if needed. Yeah. I think this you all know because we have worked on the budget with all of you, that management fees are not accepted for EU grants implemented through IFAD. Just to be very specific on that, implemented through IFAD. The final thing I want to talk about today, and then I will open the floor for questions, or maybe we look at the SOE quickly and then I open the floor for questions, is that it's really important that you are aware of the concept of verification, meaning that for any EU funded grant, the EU has the right to launch a EU verification mission. So they will be contacting IFAD and saying that we choose this project, sometimes, to be honest, a program even. So we choose this program that consists of these projects to for a verification mission. So it means that they will be mainly it's at a first stage. They will be choosing an auditors to go and audit a sample of this program or project expenditures. And this is why I was really trying to stress on the importance of having the supporting documents complete, of having the transaction listing clear, include all the information. And it's frequent to have EU launching verification missions. It's very frequent, it's not rare. So if you have your transaction listing clear, include all information, your supporting documents always in place, you don't have any issues, they will announce the mission. We of course will contact you, inform you, and you shouldn't have any issues because everything is in place. The other two, I mean, just for information, is that sometimes when there are some escalations, there could be intervention from the anti-fraud office or the court of auditors. But the norm is to have auditors auditing expenditures incurred by the recipients for all the grants implemented through IFAD. Normally, as per the EU, it's 5 years where they need the accounts to be kept after the grant closure. But as per IFAD, it's 10 years, so we are covered anyway because you sign with IFAD 10 years, so this is fine. Yeah, I mean, this is mainly the main aspects I wanted you to go through and to really have an idea about. I don't know if this is overwhelming or it's super easy. I hope it's like super easy, whatever, not overwhelming. And I don't know, Julia, shall we go quickly through the SOE template just to show them the logic, or we open for questions? How do you prefer to do it?
I think it would be useful just to do a quick overview of the SOE so everyone knows, because it's the main document mainly. And then maybe we can open for Q&A.
Thank you. So let me share my screen just a minute. Okay, so mainly, as I said, the SOE template is very, very basic. It's really simple. And some of the accounting softwares, if they are advanced and good, it would be easy to adapt the template into the accounting software and you just print it whenever you have a due reporting. If your accounting software cannot adapt it, of course, you can just fill it manually. It's a very simple template that is split into 3 periods, as you can see. So you consider that this is period 1, and this is period 2, and this is period 3. So quickly to go through them, period 1 is the current period, meaning the 6-month periods you are reporting. And here you want to slightly work on the budget and just customize it to be 6 months. So reduce it down slightly. And then, of course, the period 2 is the year. So here we want to have a look at the year, and the budget will be the annual budget. So if you're reporting, for example, from June to December, you will have here June to December budget and actuals, but you will have here January to December budget actuals. So we're looking at the full year to see what is the budget for the year and how much was spent up to date. We want to see the full year performance, more or less. And then at the end, we have the cumulative. The cumulative is super easy because they never change. You open the grant agreement and you update the expenditures here exactly as per Schedule 2. So you put the categories exactly as per Schedule 2, and you will put the allocation per category exactly as per Schedule 2. And these will never change from period to period because we're looking at the cumulative budget, meaning cumulative allocation as per the grant agreement, and actuals will be, of course, since the beginning, since when you got the first disbursement up to the reporting the end date of the reporting period. There are some formulas here, so you don't have to be playing with everything. So just fill the budget and the actuals. In the sources column, I know it looks a little bit confusing maybe, but I mean, in the sources column, you can skip the budget section and just put what actual source you have received. So if you received from IFAD 100,000, 150, just put it here in the relevant period, of course. If you had any counterpart fund, even if it's like your co-financing in cash, only in cash, feel free to put it here. As I said, you can skip the budget and just put it in the actual. Some people put it in the budget and the actual. It really does not matter. What matters is to see how much cash was received during this period. And yeah, this is mainly the SOE. I hope it's simple. Of course, it should be signed, as I said, by the authorized signatory as submitted to IFAD. And then on the submission, so once you have it certified, you can send it by email. We have an email address to distribute the documents, but you don't have to worry about this now. We will guide you through the process once you send it. And then we distribute it officially internally. So recently we have changed the policy slightly where you don't have to send it by mail and we wait until we receive it and we record it, etc. Yeah. So this is the main, these are the main elements. Of course, I mean, a couple of things you need to fill just to have the template more of like customized report, but that should be it. So now I think I'll stop sharing and back to you, Julia, or we open the floor for questions.
Thank you, Ala. I think it was a very clear presentation. I hope it also raised some questions from the people in this meeting. So just please raise your hand or just unmute to raise any question to Ala. I think Sarel is the first one that raised the hand. Sarel.
Yes, thanks, Ala, for the comprehensive breakthrough and walkthrough. Maybe just a question, you might have covered this already. Is the expectation that at the end of this of the funding period that we have external auditors signing off this audited process, or is it the internal finance department with corroborating and substantiating evidence? Thanks.
Shall I, or we take it one? How do you want to do it as you wish?
There's another hand raised, so maybe we take two.
Yeah.
Kafui, maybe it's your turn.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. You made mention of a 10% if you want to repurpose funds under the project. For example, you have a line item that you think is no longer very relevant and you want to move that funds to another item which you think will help you to achieve the purpose of the project on time. What I want to know is the 10% you talked about, should the 10% be on the total amount? For example, the money comes in tranches, first year and second year. So the total amount or on the amount for that particular I don't know whether the question is
Yeah, it's clear. It should be clear.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I go and maybe I answer the questions first. Okay, so for the question asked by Sarah, thank you for the question. It should be signed by the external auditors. So it should be independent auditors, independent firm that is hired to conduct the audit. Unfortunately, I cannot see the recipient name, so I can, recognize if it's a signed grant agreement or not, etc. But normally, it's an independent auditor hired to audit specifically the project accounts, and the opinion should be expressed by the auditors, external auditors. And of course, the reports could be signed by the finance manager or the management internally, but then the opinion, the audit report, meaning the audit opinion on the SOE, the report of factual findings should be signed by auditors. I hope I answered your question, Sarah. I hope this is what you were asking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Anna. I think I might just I have some let's call it latter questions as well, but it might be specific to our situation. So I'll take it offline for now. But thanks, Allah. You answered the question.
Sure, welcome. And yeah, feel free to, if you have any other questions, could be specific to your case, feel free to send us by email. For the question by Kafu, I mean, mainly how we look at it, the 10% is by the category. So you have the grant agreement with the category allocation. So for example, when you are submitting your final SOE, we will be looking, okay, so 100,000 was allocated to consultancies and 200,000 was spent. So this is definitely more than 10%. So this is not acceptable, you see? So mainly it is category, like based on the categories allocation. So because it's confusing if you will make it on the budget lines or everything. So here the budget heading more or less is meant to be the budget, the category of expenditure. So make sure that when you're having this flexibility of 10%, you are working on it between the category breakdown. I hope this is clear.
If I can
is it clear?
Oh.
Yes, please, Julia.
I just wanted to build on what you just said also to respond to Kafui. I think you're talking from Fidelity Bank, and I think, for example, one of these categories would be salaries or consultancies looking at your grant agreement. But in any case, this 10% is allowed, but it should always be communicated to IFAD. So before, what Ara was referring is that beyond 10%, it needs like a formal clearance. But in any case, any changes from these categories should be communicated to IFAD first.
Exactly.
We have another
Hello?
hand from Tinash.
Good afternoon. My question is regarding the currency we need to use for the SOE. Does it have to be in euros, or we can use a currency that we record our books on using?
Thank you, Tinash. Yes, indeed. It's in the SOE, it's euro, but in the transaction listing, you have the local currency or currencies sometimes, because sometimes it's not only one currency. So you have the column for the local currencies used, and then the exchange rate column, and then the euro column, which should be matching with the amounts reported in the SOE. So SOE, to conclude, is euro only. And then the transaction listing will be showing each transaction with its with the currency used for payments.
And the conversion rate, conversion currency, is there a specific website we need to use, or what would you suggest or recommend?
So if you recall, I don't know when we had but may I ask Tinash from which institution you are? Just to know.
MFS Africa.
Yeah. So if you recall when we had the due diligence. When we were at due diligence stage, one of the many questions we asked in the FMAC, the Financial Management Questionnaire, is what is your policy on an exchange rate? And for us, each recipient can follow their policy of the exchange rate. Like normally, what does MSF Africa do for conversion? Maybe they use the daily conversion of the central bank, right? So as long as the policy is reasonable and acceptable by IFAD, we go with it. You can use it. We do not impose any website to be used or any exchange rate to be used. For us, it's really important to have the policy clear of the exchange rate used, consistent, so you cannot change each month. You use different methods. This is not acceptable. And for it to be like based on an official or accepted website, central bank, you use, but make sure it's consistent through the project expenditures. But it's fine to use your own policy. Okay. I think we have a question in the chat from Isa. Is the first reporting issued for the first 6 months of activity with a delay of 6 months? I really did not get the question, to be honest. But the thing I may comment on, maybe I will answer your question, is that sometimes, or in most cases, the first reporting period won't be exactly 6 months. Because we are basing the period end on a calendar year. So it's either ending January, either ending December. So in a lot of cases, the first reporting period will be only 3 months or 2 months or 4 months, you see. But please clarify further the question.
Hello? Yeah, I just have a question. Thank you for the elaborate deliberation you've done. My question goes to the submission of the statement of audited accounts. In your deliberation, if I got it right, you were saying we should, in addition to this audited account of the project, we should submit the audited account of the institution that is supported. For example, I'm taking off Q money specific. We are accounting the project separately, completely separately away from our core activity. Would there be a requirement where we have to submit our own audited account, that is a financial statement for Q money, in addition to the project's financial statement?
Yeah. So if I get your question, you mean that in the Q money financial statements, you do not include any reference to the grant financing? If I get the first part of the information, not the question.
Yes, because what is happening, we operate is that what our cash contribution to the project, we move it from our project and pay it into the IFAD's account. So that we will have, yes.
I think I got you. Yeah. I think I got you. Maybe we can take the case more in details by email, but in all cases, we still need the institutional audit. We always make reference that we want to see the grant financing reflected in the institutional audit. But if you have a peculiar case where you do not include it in the your institutional audit for some reason or another, we can discuss this aside. But we still require the institutional audit. This is still one of the requirements, because you know why? Sometimes it's really important for us to see that, okay, we have the project audit and it's available. But it's important to see that this institution did not have any major cases, whether legal, whether fraud, so we need still to look at the institutional audit to have a look at the firm or let's say institution, regardless of the type, performance internal control, any major issues, any things we should be aware of. So this is why we still require the institutional audit. In any case, it's a mandatory requirement.
Yes, we don't have problem in submitting the institutional audit, the institutional audited account, but for the question you're saying it has to be included there because we're treating them two separately. But if we, like you said, we'll further send us an email and we'll take it up from there.
Yeah, just to understand more why the financing won't be reflected. And then, I mean, we can clear that aside. But I mean, in general, even though we still require the institutional audit. So it's not only just to see the grant financing, it's reflected and we check it. We also look at other aspects just to make sure there are no major issues that we should be aware of at institution level.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So Isa, from which, what is the name of the institution? So I can maybe give you the exact answer that is applied to your institution. Maybe by that you will get what I mean of the reporting period. So if you can let me know, Isa, from which institution you are, or I can clarify better, I think. And then maybe meanwhile, Isa, we can take innocent question. Yes, please.
Innocent, do you want to raise your question? If you're, yeah. I don't know if maybe you're talking, but we cannot hear you.
No.
Mm-mm.
Maybe you can write in the chat. I don't know if there's a problem in the audio. So maybe meanwhile I can answer Isa's question now because he's from InTouch. So for example, Isa, InTouch, the first disbursement was on 23rd of November 2022. So meaning that the first reporting period will be, this is the first, only the first, will be 23rd of November 2022 until 31st of December 2022, meaning that by 14th of February 2023, which has passed already, but I mean the idea, by 14th of February 2023, we expect to receive a report for this period. 23rd of November to 31st of December to see how much was spent in this 1 month and 7 days. Now, this is only the first reporting period. The second reporting period will be from 1st of January 2023 to 30th of June 2023. Okay, so covering now normal 6 months, and it's due by 14th of August. So this would be your reporting period. And then after that, you will have 6-month reporting period regular until you reach completion. So for example, just to elaborate slightly, the final reporting period will be something like from 1st of July 2024. This is only InTouch case. 1st of July 2024 until 30th of September 2024 because the project completes. Okay, I hope this is clear, Isa. Sorry, Julia, I'm not following up. What are we doing?
So apparently we cannot hear Innocent, but he raised the question via chat, and the question is: the reporting period starts from the date of the receipt of the funds.
So it starts from the date they receive the fund, and then it will end to the nearest end of reporting period. So either 31st of December or 30th of June. Yeah. And then it will be regular 6 months.
And then there's a second question saying the SOE must be audited by internal auditors.
So the annual SOE should be audited by an external auditor, external independent audit firm that is acceptable to IFAD, of course. So not an internal auditor. So an internal auditor, I mean, it's something extra you can do for your accounts. Yeah, so she got it. But the SOE annual should be done by, because we're talking about an audit opinion, which should be expressed by an external auditor. I don't know if you have any other question in the chat that we missed.
I don't think so.
No, maybe.
There's a question from Wilson saying, thank you, all. I want to find out if the institution can use the same auditor for both institution audit and grant audit.
Sure. Yes, definitely. As I said, as long as it's an independent audit firm that is acceptable to IFAD, that follows the international standards, mainly the international auditing standards, it's acceptable. And it's important, maybe I did not mention that at the beginning, but it was mentioned in the grand design document that we clear the audit TOR at the beginning. So we have done already that with a lot of you. We have sent you the audit TOR, you have customized it to your institution, and we cleared it. So now you can give this audit TOR to the auditors, and they will know definitely what to do.
Okay, there's another question saying, for the institution's annual audited report, is it the case that the external auditors must state a note on IFAD financing?
So it's not a note. You can check with the auditors, they will understand. It's an opinion. So they will say, in our opinion, the statement of expenditure for project XX presents fairly in all material respect the financial position as per IFAD guidelines or EPSAS or IFRS, or so it's an opinion. Financial external auditors fees is, yeah, you can include it in the budget, but please check with us if you did not include it already, the audit fees. But IFAD covers only the audit fees paid to do the audit work on the project. So you cannot charge IFAD or EU a percentage of your institutional audit work. So only this audit opinion and report of factual finding that we are doing in specific for this project, you can include in the budget. But if we have cleared the budget, please coordinate and send an email to Julia. Maybe we check what we can do.
No, I just checked while you were speaking, Ala, and Isa is coming from In Touch, and I just checked the budget. If you could check your line 45, you have the budget assigned for the external auditors.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, do we have any other question from anyone?
Of course, they can reach out by email in case during preparation, especially of SOE, TL, if there's anything not clear, please feel free to write and reach out. Do not just prepare and sign and send. I mean, if you prefer to send a draft so we clear it quickly, feel free to do so.
And we will be sharing all the templates that Ala mentioned, as well as the presentation, right? Ala, is that possible?
Yeah, I'll send it to you in a minute, maybe Julia, so you can. I will include the audit TOR, but please remember that this is a sample. So if you, in case you did not work on it yet, you need to customize it, send it to us for clearance.
So yeah, if there aren't any other questions, it's 12 o'clock. And this meeting was for an hour. So thank you very much, Ala. It was a very clear presentation. Oops, a last minute question. Let's take it. What are some of the payments allowed for the completion of the project activities and expenditures?
Normally for such a type of a grant, only audit. Only audit. In case you have anything else which could be relevant to closing the grant, you need to clear it with us. Send by an email to Julia. Julia will be communicating to me, and we clear in case. But normally it's only audit.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ala. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And we will be sharing the recording as well as possible and all the documents mentioned by Ala.
Sure. Thank you all for joining. It was nice to be in touch, even virtually.
Thank you, Ala.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Merci, Alain.
Thank you. Bye.
Salut.